On today's episode of Let's Grow Together, I talk with time management and productivity expert Hugo Denat of Time Flies. He is truly an expert. He has awesome knowledge, and we really dive in to some key tactics and strategies that are very beneficial for managing your productivity, your habits, and how you can create these techniques into your daily routines by starting small and really implementing them to get the desired results that you're after. This is a great episode, and he's truly a great friend of mine. And there's definitely going to be a part two of this for sure. And I'm looking forward to that. So without further ado, but first, the intro. Welcome to Let's Grow Together. My name is Nick Monotadibus, motivational speaker and digital marketing strategist. And this podcast is all about helping you grow both in life and business. Let's dive in. All right. Hello. I am so excited, fired up. I know that I had been meaning to get you on here for a while, so I am very excited to welcome my good friend, Hugo Denat. How's it going, Hugo?
I'm very good, thank you. And you have a bonus guest today.
Yeah.
For people watching on video, we have Luca, my son, that is right here with me. And so you have two guests for the price of one.
Yes, love it. Hey, busy entrepreneur trying to make it, got to handle the kid. So he's going to be enjoying this amazing podcast that we have here. So this is going to be great. Love it. Awesome. So real quick, give us just a little background on who you are, what you do, and who you serve.
So I'm Hugo Denat. I'm a time management and productivity coach. I've been working in consulting in B2B for almost 10 years now. And I've always faced one frustrating issue with my clients. When I was implementing solutions, streamlining their processes, they never have time. They say, yeah, Hugo, it's great what you're saying. And that would be a great solution to implement, but sorry, but we don't have time. So frustrating for me because this solution is supposed to bring you more time, but you need to have a little bit of investment up front, of course, to save time on the long run. So I tried to solve this specific issue in my business now, targeting more like B2C, not B2B, and using all the methodology that I have to develop my proprietary method to help people regain and reclaim their time back. So that's basically who I am and who I serve.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, I've been privileged to watch plenty of your YouTube videos. I always get tons of value from it. It's always great to see, other people making videos, helping people creating content. And one of the things specific that I always love to talk about, I love to talk about this, and the fact that you mentioned it in one of the videos was so great. You mentioned the importance of having gratitude in your daily routine. So yeah. I would love to know how you started implementing that and kind of how that process has helped and worked for you.
Yeah, so I see your post. I don't know if it's on Facebook or on Instagram, or actually both. You always have your late night thoughts, and sometimes you share your gratitude journal. I love it. So thank you. First of all, for sharing that. Gratitude is one of the keystones habits, right? You have keystones habits that are the habits that can help you, that are pretty easy to implement, and that can help you implement other good habits for you that are like kind of the cornerstone, right? And I tried to implement gratitude, practicing gratitude at night. Some people do it in the morning. I think I prefer doing it at night to end the day on a sweet note. And try to think of three things. It's simple. I'm a very simple guy, so I like simple things. Otherwise I don't manage to do them on the long run. But just being grateful for three things that happened today. And that's great to force yourself to see things positively. And that's why it's a keystone habit, because everything is perception, right? Everything is perception. And if you are hacking your brain to be positive through gratitude, then you are seeing other things more positively, and you get the ball rolling in the right direction. So I'm not saying I'm not perfect and I'm not doing it every day, but sometimes I feel like, oh, I need more gratitude. And it's kind of like everything on the shelf, like these little habits this little routine, if I can say, that I have them on my shelf. And I feel like I need more positivity, and I'm going to start back on my gratitude. So I haven't done gratitude journaling in like almost 2 weeks now. Because I preferred implementing like more things in the morning and going for a run to get my energy. And I don't expect myself to have to do all of this every single day. It's kind of like, depending on when I need, I just pick that habit on the shelf and I know how to implement it.
That's awesome. And that's certainly unique. I know for me, I feel like I try and do everything all at once, and sometimes my morning routine is very extensive. Now, for me, I have a little bit more time. I don't have a family, so it allows me a little bit more flexibility. I have a lot of time in the morning to be able to implement a pretty extensive morning routine. Someone with yourself, I would love to learn more. You mentioned going for a run in the morning. What are some of your other morning routines and habits that you create and you implement, and how often do you do them? Because you mentioned that you mix it up a little bit, which I think is really cool. I'd love to hear more on that.
Yeah, I mix up. And your morning routine, I think some people keep the same exact morning routine for years. I'm not this type of guy. As I said, I like changing depending on my needs. I gained a little bit of weight recently, so I was like, okay, I need to maybe be careful about that. And so start implementing habit of reducing carbs. And I have my habit tracker here. Okay, let me put it up for you. Oh, damn it, it's on the wall. For the people seeing on the video, that's going to be much more meaningful. But basically, this is my habit tracker.
Look at that.
Very simple, very simple. I have all the days in February, and I have 4 habits that I want to implement and I want to do daily. So, hey, Luca, you want to see it? So you have basically, I need to run every day. It's 15 minutes. I want to reduce carbs to 1 meal a day. And I don't want to eat bread. So you were saying like you have extensive morning routine and all these things. If I want to be able to do things on the long run and have sustainable results, I'm all in favor of starting small and stacking up things. That's why this, you see on the 4th line, it's like back exercise. I didn't start back exercise day 1. I got the habit of doing run and reducing carbs and no bread. And then 1 week later, I felt comfortable with it and say, okay, I'm going to add back. And I was almost on the streak until yesterday. And yesterday I didn't do my back exercise and I didn't run. But I always follow the 2 days rule. If I don't do what I said I would do for 1 day, I don't have any excuse the day after. I need to get back on track. No excuse. No excuse. Otherwise, you start implementing the opposite habit, right? And it's just backsliding from there.
Mm-hmm. I'm hearing a lot of references that you're making towards atomic habits, it sounds like. And just so I can explain to the listeners, his board basically has all the days at the top, and then on the left-hand side, basically has the habits that he wants to do. And so then in between, he's checking off each day and each habit, whether or not he's able to do that. And there's a lot of science that goes into having that check mark, and feeling that accomplishment of being able to implement that and being able to feel that accomplishment. Okay, I did this, and then being able to see it. And I love what you mentioned too. And I know, being able to, if you don't do it the next day, that you make sure, if you don't do it that day, then you make sure you do it the next day. And I think that's like the most powerful rule that you can do.
Exactly. Otherwise, you just start creating the opposite habit of what you want to implement. right?
It can spiral too. You're just like, oh, well, I didn't do it yesterday, so whatever. If I don't do it today, no big deal. And it just has, it's so easy to get wrapped back in to those bad habits. And I feel it's so important. I love that you actually write it down. I have a similar example where I have my journal, and I use Savers, which I talk about in the previous episodes. That's based on the morning routine. And I basically just I cross off every morning that I do each of those things. So it's like 6 things, silence and, which is like meditation, affirmations, visualizations, exercise, and I forget now, I'm drawing a blank on what R is. But anyway, I just check off each one. And again, you get that. You mentioned like habit stacking, which I know that's an Atomic Habits term as well. And can you go a little bit more into how you use habit stacking and how that's helped you?
I can go very tactical, but I would like to start to just back up a little bit on why it's important to stack things. Because people think like, okay, I'm going to implement my morning routine. I just read Miracle Morning from Haderold, and I'm so pumped. I'm going to do Savers. I'm going to do 30 minutes of this, 30 minutes of this, and it's going to be a 2.5 hours morning routine. How can you expect from day one to do 2.5 hours? It needs to be small, incremental, and because you're going to learn in that process, you're going to get better, and you need to basically start slow and seek for compound effects. I like the saying, I don't know how accurate it is, but if you are try to seek to be 100% better every day. And after 1 year, you'll be this amazing human being. I think someone wants to say something. You know what? I'm gonna try to find a little toy for him.
Okay.
That's what we do when we're live. He likes cooking.
Oh my gosh, awesome.
He's gonna play with this. So be 100% better every single day.
1% better? Is that what you meant?
1% better.
1% better, yeah.
Don't try to implement like a breakthrough improvement like in one day. That's not gonna happen. You need to seek improvements on the long run, right? And it only goes with iterations. It only goes with small little tweaks that you do on an everyday basis to get better. So very tactically, what I did, just coming back to my example, I didn't want to chase two rabbits at the same time. I just stick to 3 habits that I know are easy to implement. And from there, I just add new habits because I feel comfortable adding some to the stack, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just like you said, that 1% better, but you don't recognize the 1% unless you're doing some type of tracking in how you're able to incorporate that. And so many people, like you said, they want to start so big. They want to, let me do all these things instead of just starting one thing. I'll never forget, this is like the most absurd example that they use in the book, where one example, I forget whether I think it was Atomic Habits, it might have been the Miracle Morning, but he just went to the gym and then he would leave. He didn't actually work out at the gym. He would just go to the gym and just made the routine of going to the gym, but not actually even working out. And then eventually, started working out and incorporated that. But it just goes to show you how the benefits of starting small, and some people may be like, what, he went to the gym and didn't work out? That's crazy. But again, this was somebody who was really struggling with obesity. He was struggling, having a hard time incorporating something, and something that's far-fetched or something that you don't do often. It can be as simple as that. It can be as simple as going for a 10-minute walk before you decide to go for, a mile run. And these little things. And people, that's why so many people fail their goals in the first month. We're almost through February now, time of this recording. And so many people's new New Year's resolutions are already gone. I think it's February 15th is like the day where everyone's routines for the day started or goals are already done, which is, I mean, that's terrible. A month and a half.
I went to the gym this morning. It was pretty empty, I have to tell you.
It's exactly, it is. It's just a natural thing that happens because so many people, when they start their new routines in the new year, they try and do so many things instead of just being like, all right, my one thing is I'm going to walk for 10 minutes a day. Like if that was your one thing, you're going to be like, all right, well, I can do that. You know, I can make that happen.
It's how ridiculously small can you actually start not to have the excuse that you don't have time, right? So if you say, I'm going to like meditate for 1 minute, come on, you don't have 1 minute. Really? You have 1 minute, so just do it. You don't have the excuse. I mean, you might have other excuse, but the time component of your excuse is not working. It's not working. 1 minute, you have it. You can just go to the gym and not even enter and then come and just come back, just to get in the habit of going to the gym, right? So yeah, I think everything you say is right. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's an interesting aspect of, you know, again, just starting that small, starting that 1 minute. And, you know, from what I've found too, you're going to accomplish the goals that you make a priority. And I think that's the biggest thing is that people struggle with is they're not making their goals a priority. You know, if you're a business owner and you have to, you know, pay your bills, like pay for your internet, pay for your phone, you know, pay your employees, that's a priority. You know, you don't even think about it. It's
Yeah.
a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
And, you know, so to me, that's such a huge aspect of you just have to transition these things into non-negotiables. And if you can do that, it has such a greater impact on your long term, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge aspect of, you know, thinking long term instead of short term.
Yeah, and one good exercise that I like to do to identify your non-negotiables is to do the jar of life exercise. You know, have you heard of this?
No, I don't.
Uh,
I love.
so
Go on.
it's an analogy for time management, right? Your life can be represented by an empty jar, and your jar is empty if you have limited amount of time as well as you have limited amount of space in that jar, and you fill this jar with rocks and pebbles and sand that represent so the rock represent the very important things for you, that the things that money can't buy, the non-negotiable. And the pebbles are the things that are necessary for you, but can be replaced somehow, like your car, your job, and all these things. And the sand is the fluff, is all the things that like fill your day, but are not necessarily adding value to your goals or to what is important for you. And ultimately, so many people are actually putting sand first, putting the fluff first. And at the end, if you put sand and then the pebbles and then the rock, you don't have space for the rocks to fit in your jar. You don't have space anymore for the most important things, the things that money can buy in your life, because you put the fluff first. And so if you reverse, if you put the rocks first, you have a little bit of space in between the rocks to put the pebbles, and then you have still space to put the fluff and to put the sand, sorry. And ultimately you have space for everything. It's just the order in what you put things in the jar. And so your non-negotiable are the rocks, are the things that you need to put first. You need to have in your jar of life at any time. So I just wanted to, and that's an exercise I like to do with my students and with my clients, and actually made a video on that on my YouTube channel, and maybe we can reference it.
Yeah, definitely. We'll put the link in the description and the bio for sure. That's awesome. And I remember what you're talking about now. I've seen a video similar of a teacher, and you know, he puts like the golf balls in, and then, you know, they're like, is this full? And everyone's like, yeah. And then, you know, then he puts like smaller pebbles in, and then it was able to fill up that extra space, you know. And then the last thing, I think he ends and he puts like a beer in, and it's like, no matter how you know, full your day is, you always have time for a beer with a friend, or something like that. Really
Exactly.
nice. It's a really nice message. But to go
Basically,
back
this is
to
the French version.
yeah. And it's a really cool thing to think about it too. Of you mentioned how important it is to put the rocks in first. And I think that's a great analogy too, based on how you start your day. You fill it with the most important things, and how you make time for the most important things first thing in the day, and then it allows you to do more things. So is there certain things that you do first thing in the morning that are like your core rocks, your most important things that you make sure to do in the morning?
Now, like for the past 2 weeks, I put as a non-negotiable my run in the morning. It's just 15 minutes. I know I've been running like half marathons and everything. I could run for more, but I just want to get my energy flowing. And 15 minutes, I can do it. I have 15 minutes in the morning, even though it wakes me up. Even though it wakes me up, is almost 8 months old. So he's sleep through the night is good, but in the morning he's basically drum beating our morning. But I always try to find some time, 15 minutes to sneak out, and my wife Sherry has been very supportive of that. She knows it's important for me. So 15 minutes, I go for a run, and I know that this 15 minutes, it's going to give me so much energy going forward throughout the day to be more productive and to get more things done, and to be basically in the best version of myself going forward, and to set me up for success, basically. So yeah, to answer your question, lately, the non-negotiable in the morning to start off the day, and to set myself up for success, has been this run. And I'm so grateful that I've had support from my family to be able to do this. It's just 15 minutes, but it goes a long way when you do this every day. And after 2 weeks of doing that, I feel great. I really feel great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and sometimes doing it less can be better. Like you mentioned, wanting to run longer, but often that can end up hurting you, because then you're sore or you're super tired, because you overdid it, and then you don't want to do it the next day because you're too sore.
Yep.
And I think it's just, the fitness analogy is always great for so many things. If you want to read every day and you read for 2 hours and that was like a lot for you, then it's going to be a lot more difficult the next day. You're like, well, I just read for 2 hours. Now I don't need to do it today. And, you're going to end up having more long-term success by just doing less. It's like a less is more mentality.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I'd like to shift it a little bit more, and learn a little bit more about your productivity hacks, as, you are the expert in productivity and time management. What are some key foundations for you? Let's, I guess, go more, you mentioned that you're running, that helps you be productive. I know in one of your videos, you talk about having your coffee later on in your day. I would just love to learn more about, how you incorporate, your productivity hacks, we'll say, for success.
So basically, the hacks that I have follow 3 categories. In order for me to be good, to be performant, to be once again the best version of myself, there are 3 categories, and I call them the 3 M's. In order to be performant, I need to work on the methods. It can be what you call hacks or strategies, very tactical, but it's also about mindset. And we hear so much from everyone talking about how mindset is important. So I don't think we're going to detail too much. The only mindset that I feel is so important, and I see my students struggling with, is accountability. So be accountable and know that you are, I like saying time flies, but you are the pilot. So you're the pilot of your own life. So that's why I made myself a pilot hat. I should have done it. But so you have the method, you have the mindset, and you have the milieu, the atmosphere. I had to sneak in a French word in there, of course. So, and you have the milieu. So the mindset is really the inside out. like how can I work on myself to set myself up for success from a mindset perspective. And the milieu is how you cope with external stimuli. Can be notifications, can be email, can be being disturbed by people and everything. So people see hacks like having your coffee at a certain amount of the day, or just go for a run and all these things. But this is just one component of these 3 M's. These are just the method, the strategies. So you need to also work on the mindset and on how you cope with the milieu, your environment you're in. Is your environment setting you up for success for your performance? So it's important to see it threefold, in my opinion. So I'm conscious that I haven't really answered your question. I just took a step back and say, okay, let's talk about the strategies, but don't forget the mindset and the milieu aspect.
No, I think that was a great answer in general, just because, again, you know, I'm not as experienced as you. So, you know, from my, you know, thought process is like, all right, well, what's the productivity hacks? But it just goes to show you that there's so much more, you know, to it, which is obviously why you have a course that teaches people this, you know, why there's such an extensive amount of, you know, things that go into this.
Yeah.
I love the 3 M's. That's super cool. You know, throwing in your French, you know, you got to do that. Again, it's like being you.
I have to do that.
Yeah, it's important to throw in things that are important for you. You know, it's why I have like ridiculous, you know, superhero stuff in my videos, or me doing nerdy, you know, science fiction stuff, because just me. I love it. It's an important part. So it's cool. But I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just wanted to compliment you on those 3 M's, because I think that it's a really important aspect of understanding your, you know, just your habits, your productivity, and how you're managing your time is more than just the hacks.
Yeah, exactly. Because people are asking for these hacks and say, hey, how can I be more productive? How can I go, how can I do more things? How can I focus more? Yeah, we can work on that. But if you focus, if you reaching a really high level of focus, but you're focusing on the wrong things, what's the matter with it? No, there is no purpose of focusing. Do you want to take him? I'm asking my wife to take him because okay, now I can focus. See, that was an example of the 3 M's. I have all my strategy, all my tactical things to be ready for this call. I'm in the right mindset, but I have the environment that wasn't like setting myself up for success, focusing. So I could be a master at focusing, but if I have my kid that is like really squirmy and everything, that doesn't really help me. I can go through it, but it's harder. It requires a little bit more of focus, a little bit more preparation. Maybe I could have been more prepared for it. But yeah, just wanted to throw it out there.
No, I mean, and that's great. And I think you did an awesome job. And again, you know, you were hoping that, you know, he would be sleeping, and it's a perfect example. And I'm glad that we decided to come through, and I hope that it wasn't distracting too much for you. I thought you did a great job. I hope it wasn't distracting for the listeners. It wasn't for me, so I hope it wasn't for the listeners. But I think it just goes to show you, as parts of the, you know, environment and things that you can prepare for. I was actually talking about this last night, because there's a famous quote. I believe it's Mike Tyson. I don't know if he said it before, but it's basically, oh, it's great that you have a plan, you know, until you get punched in the mouth. And it's just a perfect example of like, it's great to have a plan, but there's so many things that can be thrown at you. And so I'd love for you to maybe potentially elaborate more on this as like a productivity standpoint, because you could have a perfect routine, but all of a sudden you get a curveball. Then like, how are you reacting to it? Are you like totally thrown off because now you've gotten this curveball? Do you have things that you do when these curveballs kind of happen to be able to get back into that level of focus, to, you know, get back on track? Are there certain things that you do?
Yeah, first thing first, I can say that beating yourself up because you've been punched in the face is not necessarily going to help. I'm saying that it's very easy to say, but it's not very hard to very easy to implement. Um, because it's like when you have like $10,000 in your pocket and someone steals like 500 bucks from your 10,000. How are you going to react from it? Are you going to just focus on the 500 that you just lost and try to spend more of that money trying to find that person that stole you 500, and you're going to end up, if you don't find that person, you're going to end up maybe having even less than that. So it's just I was just trying a money analogy to it, but it's same with energy. If you have your morning routine and everything throws you up, and it's very, I have many examples of my routines like being like completely off because of a baby, because because when you're a new dad, it's even though you're supposed to be a master in organization, it's there are some things that are really hard. But that being said, it's same with energy. If things are not going exactly how you expect, we come back to accountability. How do you react to things? Everything is perception. Everything is about how you react to things, and you're accountable for it. So, are you going to have like the worst day ever because this happened, or are you going to try to? So that's the hack. I would suggest to do some kind of mindfulness exercise. You just try to ground yourself and try to gain perspective from what actually happened. Once again, very easy to say, but it can go a long way just to do 1 minute or 5 minutes, and just grounding yourself and breathing can really, really, really help. I made a video about mindfulness with my friend Dr. Chelly that is on my YouTube channel, and she always she references like counting to 3 for inhaling and counting to 3 to exhale. I don't remember exactly, but that's the idea behind. Just count until 3, inhale, count until 3, exhale, and just do this for just 1 minute. You're gonna reduce your stress level, because things that are not going exactly the way you expect it to be is going to cause stress, and that's gonna help you just regrounding, regain perspective, and say, oh, that was okay. Actually, that's not as bad as I expected, as bad as I thought. Sorry, and okay, let's continue with my day. And same with energy, and same with time. So that would be the one hack that I'm actually using, because sometimes you too scattered, and that happens to me when I try to shoot a video. This is kind of a stressful thing to do. You want to be ready, you want to have the perfect light, you want to have the perfect sound, and you start shooting and someone disturbs you. Damn it. And you are choosing the way you want to react to all these things.
That's exactly it. And I think that is so easily implementable. I mean, basically it's like, all right, whenever something gets thrown at you, just like take a moment and take a deep breath. Now, again, it does sound easier than it actually is, because, I know these tactics as well, but often when they're happening, you're not thinking, oh, well, whatever, I'm just going to take a nice deep breath and then I'll be fine. But it has to become a habit in itself, of that becoming part of your routine when you get set off. One of my mindfulness teachers, she always says it's like when your buttons get pushed, and so when your buttons are getting pushed, what happens? What's the habit that you then create? And so when your buttons get pushed, you should take a second, take a deep breath, and then respond. This can be extremely helpful with like dealing with employees, potentially dealing with an employer, dealing with a client, it can be used in your personal life also. Your wife, girlfriend, friend says something that annoys you, and you just and then you respond accordingly. I feel like you keep yourself out of trouble like that.
Yeah, and you must know that like habits have three components, right? We call them the three R's, and I think I got that from The Power of Habit. That's
Hmm.
another book.
Yeah.
I don't remember who wrote it, Charles Duhigg
Charles
or something.
Duhigg. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's there's the reminder, the routine, and the reward. So you can try to trick your brain into like when you start having these stressful events, that's your reminder. That's your reminder. And you, when you say, I love the way you put it, mindfulness needs to become a habit. And whenever you get this stressful event, okay, start to be mindful. That's your routine. And then the reward is that you feel more calm, and that's a good feeling. So it should increase the the it, it should help you implement that habit, if that makes sense. Because if you have a good feeling as a reward, you are more likely to remember that you had a good feeling because you trigger this routine, and you're more likely to do it once again next time. But it takes a little bit of time. But yeah, having this framework of the three R's can really help also.
Yeah, and then a lot of it, both to the breathing technique as well as the three R's, it comes down to self awareness. How self aware are you of your triggers? Like what do you know is going to make you do that habit that you don't want to do? Like let's say maybe you're driving your car and there's this McDonald's that you like to stop at, and often you see it and you're like, man, I really want to get that McDonald's, but if you just take a different route home and you don't see it, then now you're already setting yourself up to avoid that habit. For me, that's not really the fast food thing isn't too much of a problem for me, but I grew up watching like an insane amount of TV, like more than any kid should watch TV. And so I still have that a little bit within me where it's really easy for me to get sucked back into my ways. And what I will actually do is I put my TV in my closet. And so when it's not accessible, then I like a habit happens where I would sit down on the couch and be like, okay, this is when I would watch TV. Now all of a sudden that habit is disrupted because the TV's in the closet. Now I go, okay, no, actually I'm going to be more productive. I'm going to read, or I'm going to work on my next course, or work on the book that I want to write, or whatever it may be. But once we understand our habits and what triggers us, we're able to then create ways to kind of avoid these certain things. Do you have any tricks like that? Are you somebody that's like, I got to get this out of my way, out of sight, out of mind kind of thing?
Exactly, and I would like to look back because everything that we say really interconnects. Because what you were saying, if I can come back to it, you were saying that you had the habit, which is the routine of watching TV. You wanted to get rid of that habit or reduce that habit. So a good way to get rid of some habits that are not good for you is to actually tackle the trigger, the reminder aspect of that habit. So the reminder is having the TV here in your living room. So what you did is to put it in the closet. So you remove that trigger. So the routine, which is watching TV, is actually less likely to happen because the TV is in the closet. Uh, but what you also did is you added friction towards the what you don't want to happen, and that's a good way to implement or to get rid of habits. Is if you want to get rid of some habits, you need to add friction in your environment for it to be harder to do. On the opposite side, if you want to implement a good habit, you need to reduce as much the friction so it's easier to do. For example, for my run, I have my run gear that is already ready. I know I don't have to find, oh, where are my socks? Where are my running shoes? It's already ready. I know that I designed the environment to help me reduce the friction to do what I know I need to do. So, and we actually tying back to the third M, which is the milieu of the performance. It's your environment. Is your environment setting you up for success? You are responsible for setting your environment. So by reducing the friction or augmenting the friction, you are more likely to do the things you know you want to do.
Yeah, and I feel a lot of it too is just within our sight line that makes such a huge impact. I know I had a family dinner last weekend, and my cousin had mentioned that her husband like can't control himself with like cookies or snacks or something. And he's a fit guy, you know, he's like a very fit guy. But she's like, I have to hide it, like I put it up somewhere where he doesn't see it because he just can't control himself. And I think that it's really funny, but also very relatable, you know, of like out of sight, out of mind. And it goes to the opposite effect too. If there's a habit that you want to create, how can you put it somewhere where you're going to see it? You know, maybe you put your running shoes by the door so that you're reminded that you want to run, or you want to do more reading. So you put the book on, you know, a chair or by your bedside or something that's going to then trigger that good habit versus, you know, the opposite effect of something that's going to trigger that bad habit.
Exactly. And if I can give an example, I remember my dad asking my mom to actually hide the remote of the TV because he knows he can't control himself. So in a way, he was already set up his environment that way. He was also asking to to hide the chocolate. But coming back on the TV, why is it in the closet? Why don't you sell it?
That's a good point, because I do feel that I didn't want to give it up altogether. I think it's important because sometimes if I don't if I don't have some type of vice, then I end up like kind of going a little nuts. Like I'll just start working all the time and I get super burnt out. And so I find it really important to have that vice to be able to relate to. So like for me, a lot of times, you know, during the week is my more productive time. So it's like, okay, no, like absolutely no TV during the week. But then, hey, on the weekend, if I want to watch a movie, I love movies. So, you know, to me, that's the opportunity where I'm like, okay, I'm just going to watch, you know, a movie on the weekend. So I like to just have it. But you bring up a very good point for sure. But I know a lot of people have their TV in their bedroom, which I think is like nuts. I think that's like a huge, if you have a TV in your room, like to me, that's a big, big no-no. Just,
Yeah, and
it's
I don't have a TV at all, so I can't really say. That's why I brought up that point. Like, why do you have a TV? Right? Just you don't need it.
that's awesome. That's good. My friends actually did a similar thing where they didn't have a TV. It's funny. It reminds me of I don't know if you ever watched the show Friends, but he makes a comment. Joey, he's like, you don't have a TV. What's all your furniture pointed at? And sorry, I had to bring that up. I just think that's such a funny line. But no, that's awesome that you don't have a TV, which must mean that you're a big reader. So this is a great transition
Oh, I'm
into
actually not.
no. So you don't.
I'm not a big reader. I'm not a big reader. I like really audible.
Okay.
And I have to admit, I don't read much. Maybe I should because um, there are some really benefits of reading instead of just listening to audiobooks. It really helps with focus because nowadays we are very easily distracted, and it's hard for people to focus on reading for a long time. Because everything is designed on our phone to have like quick switch, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I should read more. I know that, but I'm gonna stack that habit once I feel comfortable with all the other habits I started implementing.
Yeah, and I think things for you, for your case, it'll be a little easier. You know, you're still pretty fresh in the dad game, so you know, I think that to me, not that I don't, not that I know, but I feel like you're still. It's a constant of things just changing and throwing you for a loop.
Yeah.
And I want to be mindful of your time. So before we conclude, we were just about to talk about some, you mentioned you do audiobooks. Do you have any recommendations for books that are specific for time management or productivity? I've actually been asked this at an event before, and I didn't actually have an answer. So I would love if you had any suggestions.
You know what? I don't read many books on time management and productivity because I try to have a fresh approach to it. And I don't want to be too biased and end up like just repeating the same things that everyone says. I read some books like Julie Morgenstein on how to be organized from the inside out, something like that. There are some great tips and everything. So, but I try to read more self-development books, or any business book, to be very honest. So the one that I'm reading now is The Way of Superman, I think. Let me check. Let me check. I don't remember exactly the name of that book.
You had me at Superman.
It's The Rise of Superman. Yeah, from Stephen Kotler. Yeah, it's a great book. It's dealing with flow state and how we can increase performance seeking that flow state. It's a great read or great listening. I really recommend it.
Awesome. This was so great, Hugo. I'm glad we were able to do this, and I know this is definitely only going to be round one when we're able to do this together. And we've already set up a round two in May, which is going to be great. I'm so excited. We have an event that we're both going to be going to, which is the previous event, which was how we met, and other guests that I've had already from the same event. Goes to show you, how important it is to go to these types of events so you can meet people like this. Real quick, before we conclude, what are some ways that somebody can get in touch with you? What's the best way to contact you or follow you?
So the best way to contact me is on LinkedIn. I'm basically spending maybe way too much time on LinkedIn lately, but that's also because it's part of my outreach strategy this year. So I post every day on LinkedIn. But also a good way to see my work is to watch my YouTube channel. It's called Time Flies Time Management. My LinkedIn is just my name, Hugo Denat. And I also have a free training, a 30 minutes free training that deals with the 5 strategies that I use to skyrocket my productivity. And that's on my website. It's www.timeflies.us.
Awesome. Fantastic. Do you have any final comments, final advice or anything?
Time flies, but you're the pilot of your life, right? You're the pilot. So it's accountability is going to make the whole difference.
Awesome. I love it. Awesome. Thank you so much, Hugo. Thank you guys for listening. I appreciate it. And remember, let's keep growing together.
Wait, one more thing. I would first like to say thank you. Thank you for listening. And if you enjoyed this message, please take a moment to write a review. By writing a review, it helps people find this message and helps me help more people. And if you really, really liked it and you think this message could help someone else, take a screenshot, share it on Instagram, and please tag me at Nick J. Boni, NickJBoni, so I can show my appreciation for you. We can all win by helping each other grow. Thank you. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon.